Howdy, mates. Good noontime, I should say. It is Sunday, December 11th, 2022, and I'm actually revisiting a site that I haven't been to in quite a while. This is the De Soto National, National Historic Site. So, this place basically dedicates to an individual named Hernando De Soto. And as just a brief introduction of him, Hernando De Soto was basically born in 1500 in the country of Spain, of course. And he was considered to be a what you call minor noble. And given that he had that type of status, he wanted to, well, not wanted, but they were basically given two choices. One, to either be a priest, or two, to be a soldier. And so he decided in that process that he wanted to be a soldier just because there's a bit more appeal, at least for him, given that he would have the opportunity to travel, especially to the New World. So at the age of 14, he took the opportunity to join on an expedition on the way over to Peru. And so you figure at that time, he was basically considered a man, essentially, at 14. He had to acquire his own wealth. And so, he essentially was a helping crew member. And it was a way for gaining conquest, glory, and gold. Of course, gold at the time was the most prized possession or material, as it symbolized wealth. So, he essentially got to know some of the Incans at the time, because that was basically the major empires in parts of South America and even Central America. He was even on another expedition with the Pizarro people, which were another well-known name in the country of Spain. And so, through the Pizarro people that he was with, he wanted to have some rights as a governor. Well, equivalent of a governor. But the Pizarros basically told him, no, go back, take your portion, and go back to Spain. So, he made his return to Spain. You know, this was probably around 1534, approximately. So, he stayed back in Spain, but he quickly got bored because, you know, he was then one of the wealthiest individuals in Spain. And the thing is, he didn't have a title. So, he didn't have that title of, you know, Conquistador or governor. And, by the way, you know this Kaylee. Kaylee is my sister-in-law. She likes the word conquistador, and I have to agree. It has a nice little ring to it. I think it's a better word than even adventurer, despite the role. So he wanted to play a role as a conquistador. And so he wanted to convince the king who was actually went by the name of Ferdinand, he wanted to have a commission to essentially play a part in another expedition. So Ferdinand brought up La Florida, and the mission was for Hernando De Soto to establish a permanent settlement and even some trade routes. And so he started his expedition with over 1,000 men, 400 different horses, and even boars too. That's the irony of it all. Some of the boars that we have down here in Florida were introduced due to the Spaniards. So, this was initially one of his landfalls, right here. I mean, some say he technically landed, up in Tampa Bay. It just so happens to be here that the national park is located, even though it's not exactly where he landed. And so, long story short, basically his mission lasted for up to 4 years, and he met up with some resistance, especially with the Calusa and the other various tribes as he went further north. He even started a march going into Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, mostly in, the search of gold. And yet, that failed. They did not really find an ounce of gold whatsoever. And so, eventually, Hernando De Soto died due to a fever. And this actually brings up another good point, by the way. I was talking to an individual at the visitor center. It wasn't really casualty, or it wasn't really war that really allowed European settlement to be possible here. I feel like instead, it's not highly as mentioned, I don't think. It was really disease that allowed settlement to be possible. The Europeans, they introduced all different types of diseases. One being the fever, as an example, or measles. That's a pretty big one. And naturally, the natives, they didn't have any particular immunity to these diseases. And so, as a result, millions of them winded up dying in the process. So, you gotta look back at that. It was really disease that made it further possible at the time. So, eventually, once Hernando De Soto passed, he was buried. Well, they say he was buried in the Mississippi River so that he wouldn't be found, or that so the natives wouldn't be aware of his death. So then the rest of the group, they made their way to the Mississippi River and wanted to get to the Panaco settlement, which was in Mexico at the time. And that's essentially how the expedition ended. So in the historical records, it was essentially a failed expedition. There was really no success whatsoever. And that's unfortunate. But in the end, though, disease still played a huge role in really making our settlement to this day possible. because at the time it was like, well, good luck getting the natives out of here. They know this area far more. But neat spot to visit, you guys, if you haven't been, especially if you're interested in learning more about cultural history. So, all right, you guys take it easy, enjoy your Sunday, and Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.